Today I'm here to talk about information. I'll not talk about BIM applications, nor I will talk about 3D models. I'll talk about just information, how we create the information, how we control the information, how we survive information across full life cycle of the asset. Right. So basically delivering the delivery of golden thread of information. That's what we will look into today. So going forward, what vision and strategic goal which we have is to for achieving the structured, smart, sustainable, and public-centric assets. We need structured information, reliable information, which supports decisions during design and construction and operations. So, in order to achieve these goals, ISO 19650 and information management, these two goals themselves, are enabler to achieve this vision. So that's for very, very sure. That we need to look into this. So for information management to work, three things must align: people, processes, and technology. Technology alone cannot fix any problems, right? So process also fails without trained people. So all these trio, people, process, and technology, needs to work together in order to do the information management. You might have heard about all six parts of ISO 19650 series. I'll not go into much detail, but just briefly, part one is concepts. Part two is about delivery phase of the asset. Part three is about operational phase. Part four is information exchange. And five is about security minded approach. Part six is health and safety. Now going forward in our slides, next slides, you will see these gray bubbles in each of the slides. So if I'm talking something about deeper, so if you refer this gray bubble, you will understand that's part one or part two, right? So this is the overall ISO 19650 workflow, which will go today in detail. And from going forward again, if you look at this tag, this is clause number. This also you'll find at the top of the presentation of each slides. So first step, it's first clause is assessment and need. So in this particular step, what happens is that there's a appointing party, basically client. They appoint an information manager to understand their own requirements. What is a business? What business goals they have? What is a strategic alignment they need to do? Then that becomes operational information requirement, and there's a project information requirement, little bit higher level of information requirement for that particular asset, what we need to build exactly. We will go into much more detail in further more slides, but just to let you know, then there is a AIR, asset information requirement. This is much detailed information requirement in order to uh, develop the information for operations and operations purpose of view, and how we will produce all of this information. Basically, we will create SMPs, standard methods and procedures. So that is what happens in the assessment stage. So 5.1, where information manager produce all of these documents. Then next step comes, or next clause comes, it's about tender. We float a tender with all of our requirements. We provide a exchange information requirement along with the RFP. Usually it is called RFP. Along with the RFP, this information exchange requirement goes. Then with that, the prospective lead appointed parties, they take the EIR, and based on the requirements in the EIR, they produce certain documents which we need for evaluation. So what is the selection criteria, evaluation criteria which we align to? So the prospective lead appointed parties will produce the pre-appointment BIM execution plan, mobilization plan, how they will carry out the work, etc., etc. And there is a risk register in order to achieve our goals from the EIR. If there is any hindrance, how they will tackle that risk register is also added while doing the response to the tender. And then capability and capacity, how the team structure of that their particular uh, softwares or any other technologies which they are using, how many team members they have, how much training they had, all of that information, capability and capacity, even the certification of ISO 19650, if they have, they can produce there. So all of that they provide it to us, and based on that, the appointing party makes the selection, and the prospective lead appointed party becomes lead appointed party, the actual lead appointed party. And the 5.1 here in the actual appointment, what happens is that they the pre BEP becomes post appointment BEP. It becomes more granular, more details will be added to that. They create responsibility matrix based on the sub consultant or appointed parties which they have. They create who will do what information, which discipline will do to what granularity. The level of information need is developed based on the EIR. They delegate their responsibilities for each discipline. Then the appointed parties come up with their task information delivery plans. Basically, we will go into deeper in these sections as well, but just to give an overview. So task information delivery plan gets converted into MIDP along with the milestones and level of details, etc. And then actual mobilization happens in 5.5. Here, the naming convention based on the EIR given, the AIR given, the naming convention is set up on the common data environment, the folder structures, information containers, etc. is developed. The templates which we need to follow, that is get created based on the requirement. Then the testing of the CD happens in this mobilization stage. So basically, whatever the requirements, the production of information is there, we test it out whether all the workflows, the review workflows, the transmittal workflows, or anything else is working on the CD or not. That testing happens. Then the actual production happens. To start the production, there are so many other things that we need to carry out, testing, the naming convention. So this mobilization is very, very critical phase where we need to develop all of these CD configuration, etc. So based on this only, we can go forward with the production of information. So in the 5.6, in the production of information, what happens is that the appointed parties check the templates. If there are any feedback required, changes required, we do that. Then the informations from each appointed party is generated, checked thoroughly, coordinated, reviewed, and the production starts. Then the actual delivery, whether it is approved by the lead appointed party or rejected. If it is rejected, it goes back to the in the production stage, and the entire cycle for generating the information check review process happens. And only after approval by the lead appointed party, authorized for that information is approved, then only it goes to the appointing party to accept the information. This is a delivery phase, 5.7 clause. And the next part is archive. So once it is archived, all the project is closed, everything is done, it is archived for further phases of the project. And we carry out a lessons learned, whether all of these workflows were correctly run, whatever went good, whatever did not went good. So we create a report with all parties involved. We have a lessons learned session and understand, so that in future we correct the whatever went wrong, and so all of this, whatever we collect information, it's basically to improve the next processes. So this is again part 2 we completed. Part 3, it's exactly the same process. The only change here is the trigger event. The part 3 is about operational phase, as all of you know. So in part 3, what happens is there is a trigger event, the register trigger event, it is kept, and all the team members, if the trigger event is foreseen trigger event, that means we know this is going to happen. So in that case, we use path A. All of the step 1 to 5 where would be already carried out, and we start with path A. And if the unforeseen event is occurred, then and we don't have team, in that case we start directly from here, path B. And if we, let's say we take a asset acquisition directly from the news, then we start here because all of this has already been carried out. So this is the only difference, is the trigger event. Otherwise everything, all the response, the appointment, mobilization, it remains the same, exactly same. In the end, the change is the asset information model federation and lessons learned. This is what only the change is. Then next important component is about people. So we saw the appointing party client. They define the information requirement. They set up the CDE, review, they accept the deliverable. So the appointing party, if you have see, if I go back, this is appointing party, right? And the lead appointed party is a design consultant, principal design consultant, or general contractor, who usually coordinates the delivery team. The output is compiled by them, the review and authorizer for that uh, particular information before clients accept it. Then there's a appointed parties. Basically, these are the task teams to generate and acquire the information, to perform QAQCs, review and approve for sharing, right? These are the teams which we have. Then entire this structure of teams is called project team. One here it's shown. Then the the delivery team, it's basically the lead appointed parties and the appointed party, it's a delivery team. And we have task team. So the teams who are actually doing the task, these are the task teams. Then information requirement, the how we share the information, that is shown in the by these arrows, right? The information coordination and exchange of information, how that happens, we can see these from the arrows. This diagram is from ISO 19650. So there are challenges in our industry, that there are delays, 20% delays, 30% delays. There is a cost overruns as well, uh, repeated design changes, rework. That usually happens in a large infrastructure project, especially the complex, where there are multiple stakeholders and systems and interfaces, etc. So most of these problems are not technical problems; they are information problems. So reason of all of these issues is misinformation. So because information is stored in silos, people are not talking to each other, design, construction and operations are disconnected. That's where information, that golden thread of information breaks. Then information unreliability also, it's a issue. So it becomes very difficult to manage the information thread. So how do we change this? So there comes the information management, which we talked about. Information management means the right people get the right information at the right time for the right purpose, and across all the life cycle: planning, design, construction, and operations. And this is what information management is all about. It's not a tool; it's a way of working. It's a process. Then the importance of information requirement. If you see at the start of in the part 2 5.1 clause, we saw the information manager is being appointed, and the information management from the appointing party side, he finds out what information is required by the client and what they need exactly for to run the business, right? So the requirements are very, very critical at the start. If the requirements were not defined at the start, the output which you will get and in the end will not be aligned with what we need, right? So that's why it is very important that information requirement has to be very clear in the start itself. So we will deep dive into OIR, PIR, AIR, which at part 2 5.1, which we talked about. So organization information requirement. This is the highest level of requirement, where strategic, business oriented and project portfolio wide the goals were set. Business alignment, for example, business can say we need to become a carbon neutral by so and so year, or we need to be sustainable. So that is one of the goal of that business. So for that, the OIR can be we require data for energy consumption, for looking after the carbon emissions, so that we can report it to some higher body. So this can be a OIR. And the same example of project information requirement, this is again a high level information client needs about the project management, your milestones, your stage approvals, budgets, everything is finalized here. So this is kind of a big picture where you give the requirement from the client side on the project. And there are decision points also here, which client needs to take for the approval of budgets or construction start or milestones, etc. So PIR here can be spatial coordination at stage 3 needs to be done to do the cost estimate and for the approval. That could be a PIR. And asset information requirement, it's very detailed information requirement. What all information is required to run and maintain the specific asset. So for operation and facility management, this is very important. So in this case, we go deeper into the equipments, air handling units, for example. We need installation date there, manufacturer, what model number, what all spare parts available, and all of that we need in a COBie format. This is the AIR. Then there's a exchange information requirement, which is very detailed contract document. It's a contractual document, by the way. It tells about you need to what exactly client is needing, when it is needing, and how it will be delivered, which format it will be delivered. So it's very detailed information. It's a technical delivery, which along with the application formats, exchange format, either it's open BIM format that we need to provide it here. Level of information need, how much detail will be needed here. That also we need to explicitly mentioned in this EIR. And the appointing party, for example, here we need to deliver HVAC models in IFC4 format. AHUs must be populated with the attributes defined in the EIR, AIR, so and so. So this in the CDE, etc. That's what EIR is all about. So information becomes deliverables later. That's why this is very critical stage. Shit. Am I audible?
Uh, Hello. Yeah, Vinayak, you are
Yeah.
audible. There was a pause for a while, but right now you're audible.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, OIR contributes to PIR. EIR, then PIR contributes to EIR, and in return, it specifies the project information model. This is what our goal is. And the AIR uh, basically informs EIR, and PIR and AIR contributes to asset information model. This is very basic. You might have seen this already, so I'll not go into deeper. And now, level of information need we will talk about. We need to know what geometric information needs to be there, and it needs to have certain purpose. Without purpose, the information whichever is produced, it's not, it's either a risk for a project or it will consume time and money. So we need to very be sure what exactly we need at each stages of the project, right? So geometric information, either it's a 2D or 3D, it's required. Then alphanumeric requirements, all the attributes, parameters, which we say in terms of asset information requirement or any other parameters which we need that alphanumeric information. And the granularity, how much detailed of information you need to provide, that is mentioned in the LOIN, level of information need. So it's kind of a standardized specification of required information. As I said, if it is under specified, it's a risk for the project. For next step, the information may not be suitable at all. Or if you over specify, it's a waste. You will lose money and time just to do the over modeling. So we need to understand what we need, what objectives we have, and we need to align the LOIN based on these specs. And usually these are defined by the appointing party, needs to be driven to downstream making for making decisions. So It's managed in the MIDP. I'll show you MIDP now, how it is helpful to plan your work. So this is again part 2, 5.3, information delivery, task information delivery plan. Who prepares it? Appointed parties creates it. What? It's a model drawing, whatever the list of deliverables they have. When the milestones also it's added there, and all the dependencies between the task team, that is also added here, and it aligns with the EIR. So what is MIDP? It's basically all task teams. It's combined, consolidated plan for all the information deliverables. Who prepares it? Lead appointed party prepares it, and it's the same aggregated all TIDPs, project level information delivery. It's a single source of truth of all the deliverables, which supports mobilization and governance for the project. And for the appointments to get complete, uh, basically from the appointing party, which we saw in 5.4, EIR, LOIN, all supporting information, acceptance criteria from the appointing party, which is client, and all the delivery milestones it's required. Then any other standards, industry standards, any policies which appointing party may have, they can include in the while the doing the appointment. And from the lead appointed party, we need BIM execution plan, capability, capacity assessment, mobilization plan, and risk assessment. So this is what we need. Then they will produce a TIDP, MIDP, responsibility matrix, etc. Only after agreement of all of this, your appointment becomes final, and then the further work starts. So now we'll go into part 2, 5.5 and 6, mobilization in common data environment. It's basically production methods. So we need to define all of the workflows, how we work. So in the common data environment, we need to do the selection based on these technologies, the workflows of information exchanges properly aligned with or not. For example, for UK National Annex, they provide the status codes, etc., the revision codes, which we need to adhere to. That is explained. So for example, here, work in progress, the purpose is for the initial task teams to work, not visible to others. The status code here is S0, revision code is P012, actions is just to create information, nothing there. Only once there's a gate A, internal teams checks approves happens, then only it moves into shared. And in the shared area, it's for there is some purpose to it. Either it's for coordination, information, review, comment, or acceptance. So these are the status code. Based on that, information needs to be moved. The revision code is again preliminary, continues from the previous, and the responsibility here it's about the task team leads or from the appointed parties, lead appointed parties as well. Then after this, there's a gate as well for moving that information to published. Only after acceptance from the client, information moves into the published. Here, the status code is A1 or B1 based on the what information is that for accepted or partially signed off. The revision code is the contractual C01. The actions here is basically final approved information sits here. This responsibility of this folder is document control. Usually document controls manages publish folder. Then archive folder, it's the keeping the backups or all the history to retrieve in further. So this is what the archive folder is. Again, this is responsibility of document control. And unique naming standard also, while selection of the CDE, the naming convention, the status code, revision code, classification, all of these needs to be taken care, and then only we can go ahead with the common data environment. And this is one example how we can align with these ISO standards with the folder structure, the naming convention, version history, etc. And we'll go for the naming convention, the status code also. You need to specify, provide training at the BIM kickoff meeting. Tell them this is what we will be using: naming convention, version, and status code, etc. The entire workflow of how the information will be exchanged. You need to provide trainings to appointed parties, etc. Lead appointed parties, yeah, and that needs to be taken care. Then workflows, there are for each workflow, if for example there's a review process which you want to implement, you need to make sure what action needs to be taken, who is responsible for that. So in this case, for review, The lead appointed party modeler document control is responsible for initiating the review process. They after doing the internal review and internal QA/QC process, then the document control from appointing parties side, he will check the integrity of the information, the classification code, attributes, revision code, other things, etc. Then it goes to the technical review where the appointing party engineers do the red lines, markups, comments, issues, etc., and they submit the review. So this you need to define who will do what at each stage, and exactly what will happen at each stage. And your CDE should be able to enable this, and it should be trained. You should train all your team members in order to achieve the implementation. Same way goes to the transmittal workflows, etc. How the information will be transmitted in the published folder, how it will be kept in archive, all of that needs to be provided here. The design collaboration, how you share the models, how you want models to be published on weekly basis, that also you can map what action needs to be taken every week, who is responsible for that, how it will be done exactly. These standard methods and procedures you need to map out and provide it to the appointed parties and lead appointed parties to do. And model coordination also, how you do the clash detection coordination, that also properly needs to be defined, which platform you use, how you do the clash matrix, which are the clash matrix, which are basically important clashes to be resolved, which are not, which are false positive, your uh, uh, whether it's a soft clash, whether it's a hard clash, and your tolerances, all of that needs to be defined. And how you track, this is very important, how you track those clashes getting fixed or not, and how you validate that information, and that circle, the clash detection circle, how you do that is also very important. You need to map this out step by step, who will do when, people will, and common data environment, everything, all of this has to be done in a common data environment. Then construction stage also, there are multiple phases, there is multiple information exchange happening from the design consultant, lead appointed party. You get the project information model, that is get it handed over to the general contractor. Usually he is also a lead appointed party. They will produce the fabrication model, shop drawings, method statements from that. This is again handover happening from the lead design consultant to general contractor, and same thing from the ISO will carry out here. And they usually the general contractor, and the subcontractor, they produce the material submittal, physical samples. They need to do the procurement tracking, method statements, etc. And usually they will have in the initial phases where technical engineering happens, RFI they need to raise, and that also should be kept on CDE. The your CDE also should be able to capture this information. And RFI responses also, you need to be able to tag the design consultant or appointing party engineers to that RFI and get the responses. That the information exchange also needs to happen on the same platform, not in the emails. Everything should be on the CDE. And once all of this happens, then actual the construction execution happens. There also the quality team, safety team, they do the work inspection. They provide the reports on safety, any quality issues in terms of NCRs, etc. Those also should be raised on the CDE itself, not in the email or floating around somewhere else on WhatsApp, etc. No, everything has to be done in a common data environment so that we can track it back later. Then there's a testing and commissioning. After the construction happens, whether all the assets are working fine, there are electrical tests happening, fire life safety matrix is produced, everything is okay, all clearance is given on the CD itself. Your punch list, snag list is cleared. Your NCR is cleared, safety reports are cleared, everything is cleared. Only then it is accepted and we can go forward for the handover of the asset. In the handover also, while doing the construction, we have lot of other information which needs to be either in a documentation format or within the model itself. We need to integrate this warranty, guarantees, spare part list, any manuals, trainings needed, O&M manuals, Kobe data sheet. It's very important, right? We'll talk about that. Then asset information model, that also it's important, as build drawings, then accept the handover and close out. Here also in the construction RFIs I talked about, we need to define who will do what when, properly define and make sure it is the loop is closed, and we do it right. The submittals, usually shop drawings, product sample, the all of this, even the construction data should be on the CDE, and the all of the review, who is responsible for approval, any other additional attachment needed there, we should be able to add in the CDE submittals. Same for issues, anything clash issue or any coordination issue or any health and safety issue, uh, preparing that, making sure everything is corrective action is taken on the site, verification happens by the quality and safety team, and we close out. So that the entire loop has to be closed on the CDE itself. As I mentioned, quality, safety, there are certain forms they need to raise, the appointed parties, for example, work inspection request, material inspection request, any other reports that needs to be there. There are certain CDEs which are capable of doing this. So based on that, how you want to, either you can do it through emails, but this needs to be properly stored by the document control on the CDE for the track back later on. So all of these needs to be on the CDE. Then we have to be mindful of open BIM for long term information continuity. Usually we ask for open BIM vendor neutral delivery format, for example IFC. You can operate in any of the application, and it's basically interoperability between multiple applications, so that whenever there are multiple team members working in different platforms, IFC is a way to go. And it makes long-term. It also, supports long-term continuity of the information. Even though application is not there in the market, you can still use the information. Then actual handover to facility management and operation happens. That's what we call it digital twin. Part 3, 5.7 and 5.8. Here we take the COBE information which was produced while design and construction. So see, this COBE information starts from the start in the design and construction, not at in between, not at the end. So all of that information about spaces, flow, which levels, zones, components, types, systems, any other spare parts. This starts in the design and some of them in the construction. So that needs to be captured during that process is happening, not in the end. And so that is the idea of COBE. And this is a basically Excel sheet format where there are 18 sheets, and you'll need to submit this along with your handover documents, so that the facility management team can take this information and utilize in their applications as well. This is again a open format uh, which can be utilized in multiple CAFM systems or operation management softwares. ISC I talked about, it's again a open format. We usually ask for vendor neutral format for archiving and for the making sure that there's a proper handover happening. Uniclass classification, we talk, there are multiple stakeholders involved, and there may be chances of the information which is being produced, the tagging or the classification of that information needs to be consistent. Otherwise, we in the end, whenever we are federating model for asset information, there could be challenges. So we make sure there's a classification used consistently for searchability and traceability of your assets. So this is very important. and there are multiple tables. Even for the CD container, there is a table that we asked our teams to add, and we for all the model elements also we add this. So this helps us filtering and analytics, or any reporting needs to be done at latter date. It becomes very handy if you have all your classification done in the model correctly. So it becomes very easy for searchability, traceability, and reporting. And for asset information, digital twin, the information management provides a framework. This results in the structured information to manage our critical asset data for maintenance history, warranties, etc. Benefits are numerous, right? It's optimized maintenance, reduced downtime, informed life cycle costing, improved compliance, and faster and enhanced decision making, right? That's what asset information through information management provides us. So benefits are benefits of well-informed digital twin are this: citizens, they are make they can make well-informed decisions. The quality of life improves amid urbanization and population growth. There is a better public infrastructure, etc. For nations, it's also important because the economic output is based on this. Efficiency of infrastructure is it's improved, optimized, and long-term value is also improved for the public services, right? Organization also can unlock growth, innovative services also they can provide, enhance competitivity, and again, construction market, it's growing, and you will get that competitive edge. So we talked about this. From my side, there are 5 golden rules for BIM success I want to just declare here. No email attachments. Send the links to the CDE files, not the file, right? This is very important. You need to train each and every member who is working on the project to do this. No email attachment. One version truth. Always save, always use information from the cloud. Never download that local copy. One version. Name it right at the start. Do not change naming convention, otherwise your traceability, whenever you want to find that information, it becomes very difficult. We wanted to provide information to persons at exactly when they want it, right? So that's why never change the name, or do not name it wrongly, otherwise it's of no use. Check the status before use. Understand that what that information is for, whether it's for review, whether it's for approved for construction. You check the status, then only use the information. Never use information which is not correctly tagged. Close the loop. Whatever you do, the issues, any NCR snag list, that needs to be marked closed on the system. Do not keep it open-ended. If you follow these 5 rules, or for the BIM, your BIM will definitely get successful. Then from my side, there are some insights as well. Do not model for do not model just for the sake of modeling. Model it for information extraction. CD governance is a key. Plan for 50 years of assets life cycle. Standardization, this ISO, this is not limitation. This is not making you stop. This is making the your processes scalable and innovative. Uh, Govern the LOIN at the start. This will reduce the overload and saves the time. So these are the insights from my side, and all of the presentation components are taken from IMF framework and the Building Smart organization resources. You can find out these resources. I think I'm open for Q&A.
Um, Thanks, Vinayak. That was a wonderful deep dive into how the information gets created and how different teams come together to process it, and where does it actually end as a digital twin. I'm sure like many people on the call would have rejoiced looking at this wonderful, colorful graphs, which are very informative. Definitely, everybody wants to look at some workflows like this, but unfortunately, it's not available in public. And thanks for sharing all this here. And the 5 suggestions that you have given, I could see a lot of people clapping here. So I am sure that everyone has kind of found this presentation very insightful and kind of like useful for day-to-day work. So guys, we have the session open for Q&A. You can put in your questions on Q&A panel or chat panel. So meanwhile, I have some questions from people who are unable to attend. So I'll take up those questions and you can put in your questions, which I'll take it up later. So, Vinayak, like the first question to you is like, if the I in the BIM is the soul of the built property, why do everyone treat it like a shadow?
Okay. So at the moment, I think there's a lack of awareness within the industry. Maybe they're not aware why the information is critical. So we need to have a lot of trainings in terms of not just the construction team or the production teams, but also to the client side. That training needs to be provided, and we need to be vocal. We need to talk about it. Information needs to be properly. It's not a shadow. It's a major component in your designs, in your construction, in your assets. And going forward, I would say information will be oil. And with the age of AI and with the AI, age of the machine learning, AI, a lot of things we are seeing. So information, if you don't keep it organized, don't keep it in a central location where we can access it, everybody can access. Uh, I think it'll be very, very difficult for everyone if we just treat it as a shadow. So that education, we have to do it. This is the right forum. All of you sitting here, I think need to take that initiative and talk about it. Information is the next new oil. I would like to treat it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So the next question is like, you have spoken a lot about how information can be collected and used for analytics, etc. But the question is, if somebody actually doesn't pay attention on collecting information in a construction project, what is it actually that they're missing out in today's world?
Right. So ultimately, the traceability. Um, so when I say traceability, when we talked about the golden thread of information, that flow of information, it gets broken first of all. The traceability in terms of asset value, even for the doing the construction and in the operations as well. And maybe whenever in the future, if you want to do the modification to that asset, that valuable information we will not have. We will need to spend more money to do for doing the survey and get that information again. So it becomes more tedious. So if we keep the information along the way, you will be having a lot of simplicity in terms of the process. You will get the information on your fingertips. That was the goal, right? When we said that there is a silos of information between the design, construction, and operations. If you want to break that silos, usually the construction industry very slow to adopt these processes, the digital innovation, new innovation. But if we try to break these silos, the value of information is actually there in the operation phase and even in the construction. So that we need to make sure traceability, searchability for the end goal, for the client, or even for the nations, which we talked about, for citizens, that is very critical. So that's why we need to keep track of all the information during the construction phase as well. If you don't, your the citizens, your the countries and organization will not get that price which we need. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a question from Lakshmi. So she's asking, can AI handle common data environments?
Yeah, I think yeah. In future, I would say because these are rules, and in future, what I see is based on certain rules. All these governance of common data environment will happen, and that's for sure. Because if you have certain workflows and certain rules which you set up on the common data environment, whatever information you pull in, put in, in the CDE that will go through that process of churning, and it will be searchable, trackable. That's what we need. So I see that potential happening. Maybe not far away. Maybe next 2-3 years we'll see that definitely.
Okay. Yeah, so we have one question from Mr. Jain Vivek, and I also have another question pretty similar. I'll ask you both the questions we could probably answer in one go. So the question from Mr. Jain is that we are in the BIM, but design team not getting the BIM in the way it is. They still compare the BIM with CAD. Please guide how we can tackle. So I have another two questions pretty much in line with this. So one another common question people are asking is BIM and 3D model mandatory to collect construction information? So many people think that without BIM, you cannot actually collect the information. So what is it? You could kind of help us. And also in continuation with what Mr. Jain has asked. So in a country like India, where we are yet to have certain mandates on technology from government. So we have different kind of mandates, but like Kobe or even ISO 19650, these kind of standards are not yet mandated in India. So in a country like India, where and how should somebody begin?
Okay. Okay, I'll go to the first question first. The design team not understanding value of BIM. I think that's what the case was. First of all, we should stop thinking that BIM and the design it's two separate things. No, please, we need to abolish that idea. BIM and design both are same. So whenever you are doing any task, any design, you need to think from a BIM perspective only. So you cannot separate these two. So while doing your design, you are basically manipulating information. The information from the client you are trying to integrate in your designs. So you cannot separate these two. So you need to teach or inform in a polite way to whoever the design team is that information requirements uh, will ultimately become part of your design. So BIM is nothing different than you're designing. So that concept of two different things we need to abolish definitely. Then coming to your second question, I think it was about whether we need 3D model.
3D model.
Yeah, so it's not mandatory according to ISO that only models are required, but we have the LOIN specification which we need to provide. So in that, we can specify that information is required in how much detail. Let's say for few things like landscape, we might not need that in the 3D model. Again, it depends on the objective of or purpose of that particular assignment. If there's no purpose of information of being there, and it's just adding time and money to that process, then we simply can avoid it, right? So that's what the ISO also talks about. So yeah, LOIN is what we will look into. If it is not there, we'll not model. Very very simple.
Yeah.
Um,
So the next question was in a country like India where we don't yet have mandate, so where do we
oh,
begin with?
okay. I think clients should start, all the appointing parties should start about taking the asset very seriously, information management very seriously. They can start with the OIR and their requirements, and then it can percolate to other production houses who are actually doing the design and construction, etc. So I think that client is whole and soul. He starts his requirements if comes in a correct way, then other the downstream will follow correctly. If in your case, if client is not giving you the information requirement, OIR, EIR, PIR, we talked about, right? If the client is not giving, I think it's more important than to the lead appointed parties, in that case, your principal design consultant or the general contractors, to write these requirements for the client and get it in the agreement with the client, so that we are following the process and we are not getting trapped in that to do that or not to do that. So it saves a lot of time there, and the actual agreements comes. So I would say it is on the client as well as the lead appointed parties as well. So it's a responsibility, shared responsibility.
Okay, great. So the last question that I have is, okay, I'm getting a few more questions. So let me take up the questions from the audience firstly. Okay. Um, okay. And firstly, the person called Lakshmi is actually Lakshmi Prasad. He's an architect. I know him. I'm sorry for like misspelling him as she. So Lakshmi Prasad sir is actually asking, is there any software initiated in AI to handle common data environment? And like is asking basically like, do you have any software or app which can actually kind of handle AI within CDE?
At the moment, I've not come across, but
Okay.
yeah,
I think we might have to use some kind of AI agents and build it ourselves
yeah,
is what I'm
yeah,
also
yeah,
guessing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So the next question we have from Mohammad Kalaf is that what key differences do you see in implementation of these BIM standards?
Differences, as in, I
I
didn't
am
get.
presuming he's trying to say through BIM standards, so he's probably trying to ask between ISO 19650, uniformat, uniclass, probably. Okay, he's correcting it saying in different countries. So basically, he's asking like what key differences do you see in the implementation of these BIM standards in different countries?
Okay, so obviously the maturity levels in the European countries or some of the Asian countries, it's the maturity of the BIM, the production houses are much more higher. India, we are started now, and that's where there is a difference, and we are racing it fast, and we are learning it. So definitely there's a shift I can see now that India also is, now in that race, and based on the maturity, I think the standards will not change, but based on the current maturity, we'll need to adopt. Um, so that is the answer. I think we'll need to adopt based on the current the education level of maturity what we could see, and that adoption is very required. We need to understand both the standards as well as the current skill matrix, current industry trends. That all needs to match, otherwise there's no point of just having the standards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have one more question related to ISO 19650. So Mr. Vikrant Sambarkar is asking, does ISO 19650 mandate specific BIM tools or software platforms?
No, no, it's up to the client, or I would say we should, as a client also, we should ask the open BIM format, and there's no any as such application that is mandated. The client can say, because based on their business goals, their business requirements, client can say I need a particular software or certain exchange format, but ISO doesn't say specify anything. It's a vendor neutral standard, I would say.
Yeah. So just adding to whatever you mentioned, so basically ISO or any such standards from any country, they only talk about processes and they're mostly vendor neutral. They don't acknowledge any private or even sometimes public limited companies. And they won't say specifically this is how we have to do. They are very generic. So I think Vinayak knows it better. So if you want to add something, yeah, you can add it.
Yeah, as we talked about Kobe, we talked about IFC. These are the vendor neutral exchange formats, and any application you use, we will ask or we should ask these formats to be exchange information in IFC. Everything will come, your attributes, your whatever you mention in the AIR, what all information is you required in terms of operations and maintenance, that will come in the IFC format itself. So vendor neutral, there's
Yeah.
nothing else there.
Great. So I will just take one last question from somebody who couldn't attend, and we'll close it. So the question is that, see, we are talking a lot about information creation. Now, at the end of the project where like construction is over and you start handing over the electronic data, etc., will this information ever get deleted? And if at all you are wanting to delete, like when you will do. So basically like, let's say RFIs or some kind of
Mhm.
NCRs. So these are all very important when the construction is on and you are yet to settle the contracts with the contractors. But once, let's say you are done with all this, do we really need to store all this information forever, and do we delete it? Or are you planning to archive or anything like that? So can you just shed some light about how this data gets archived or backed up or sometimes even deleted?
Yeah. We'll need to look into the contractual requirement for this, but we definitely do archiving and proper access control. When I say access control, it is only up to the appointing party or client to back this data in certain environment, archive it basically, and keep it there for record and trailing purpose. For tracing in future, if we need to understand why that decision was taken of that particular design element, we can go back to this archive and understand what the history about that decision, what the trails happened. If it is an email, definitely you'll lose everything. But if you want to keep track of that information, definitely we'll need to keep a backup in a archive. But again, having said that, certain aspect, if the information is very, very sensitive to the client, to the appointing party, client or appointing party may ask to delete that information from the lead appointed party's side. So that contractual requirement you need to understand. And if you are from the lead appointed party where you're not, using that information any further, you can make that certain policies that are after a certain time you can delete that information. But for the operations point of view, to the client appointing party, that information is required. So that can be backed up, archived in a certain location with a controlled access. Yeah.
Okay, so great. Thanks, Vinayak. Thanks for your wonderful answers to certain prevailing questions in the market. So with this, I would like to close the session.